Hello and welcome to Redshirt Cinema Club, a weekly podcast about fandom and watching movies with friends. This week, Ridley Scott has another go at this whole alien thing with prequel-sequel Alien Covenant. Can't wait to catch up with our favourite new character, Elizabeth Shaw. Join us for battling synthetics, baby aliens, and lots of bad decisions.
You've all sacrificed so much to be here and be a part of this thing we're doing. This crew is made up of couples. It's the first ever large-scale colonization mission. And everyone back on Earth is really grateful for your hard work and your courage. We're making history here.
This is wheat. What are the odds of finding human vegetation this far from Earth?
Who planted it? You hear that?
What?
Nothing. No birds. No animals. Nothing. What happened here?
Covenant, do you read me? Covenant, come in. What's happening?
I need you back here right now. I need you.
Okay, baby, just calm down, sweetheart. Calm down.
Tell me to calm down.
You're breaking up.
All of this is to start our new life. Where is it?
Holy.
Hello and welcome back to Redshirt Cinema Club. I am your host, podcast colony captain Nathan Dighton, and today I'm joined by Bad Robot Man, Robert Pearson.
Hello.
And Good Robot Man, David Jackson. All joking aside, I did think there was quite a lot of similarity between the David and Walter relationship and your relationship.
Really? Oh.
Yes. We have watched
Which
Ridley...
which one's which?
Well, you're the bad robot.
Well, Rob's like a mentor to me. I look up to Rob.
No, David and Walter.
Yeah, no, I got it. But I would argue we'll get into this. But
I'll teach you how to play the flute.
He's like a more advanced version of me. I'm not having that.
You've misread the film. That's not true at all. Walter's a more advanced version of David.
No,
Yeah.
but like a stepped back version because he was too realistic. He started. David's upset everybody, so they made Walters.
He's misanthropic and he must be stopped.
Yeah.
We have watched Ridley Scott's third Alien movie, 2017's Alien Covenant, a direct continuation of the story of Prometheus. Before we unfurl the solar sail of discussion, spoilers for the entire film as we examine the xenomorph embryo of synopsis, today regurgitated by Dave.
Is it really me? I did the last one.
No,
I did Prometheus.
We had a bonus episode though, didn't we?
But I thought that's not how it worked. I'm genuinely confused and surprised.
You're shocked and upset.
All right, I'll do my best. Ready?
Yep.
Right. Okay. Let's wait for me to be ready because let me just think about how the film starts. Okay, I've got it. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Let's go. So, colony ship Covenant is heading to a place to colonize when a disruption causes it to have an accident, and during the course of the repairs, they they find a signal coming from a nearby planet that looks too good to be true. It would be even better to colonize this one. So they go and visit this one instead, set down and begin in the most unscientific way ever to try and find the signal. During the course of this search, two members of the crew become infected with a pathogen of some kind and, surprise, become sort of xenomorphs of some kind. They destroy the ship, means they can't get back to the surface, and are about to be killed. The crew are about to be killed by the xenomorphs when a mysterious figure comes and saves them, leads them back to his dire necropolis, which I enjoyed. And it's David from Prometheus. He's alive. He kind of saves everyone, but actually it turns out he's doing an evil experiment and he wants them all dead and will turn them all into the perfect organism. He has a fight with Walter, the good robot, who stops him, and just in the nick of time, they manage to escape back to the Covenant and all live happily ever after. Except Walter, who's come with them, is actually David, and he still wants to hurt everybody. But don't worry, he's been stopped. Well, no, they didn't realise that. The xenomorph is aboard. That's stopped and killed. Everybody's happy. They all go to sleep, and then it turns out that Walter's actually David, and his nefarious plans are about to be put into action on 2,000 colonists and a bunch of embryos.
If he'd got any sequels, they would have been anyway.
Yes.
But he didn't, because the film was unenjoyable.
Well, they are going to do another one.
I believe
what I hear?
if you read the reports, it's less clear. It's just Ridley Scott saying a bunch of words. Ridley Scott said he was filming the sequel to Covenant in 2018, before Covenant came out. And then they said he was scripting. He's been saying it forever. He just says a bunch of stuff all the time.
Sounds like people I know.
The thing that the head of Fox said was that they're making a sequel to Romulus. So I think everyone should keep your eye on the donut, not the hole.
Fox are the ones with the money. So
Fox are the ones with the money, and Ridley Scott has been walking around saying it's a big shame that he doesn't have control of the Alien property, and that he should do. It's a big deal. I should have my fingers in the pies. Do you know one of the things, talking about pathogens, that I realised watching this film was that I think it really suffers, and my patience for it is thinner than it might have been. It was pretty thin in the first place, but because we've since had a global pandemic. Yeah. So the idea of walking onto a planet you don't know and just taking your helmet off or sniffing things is just like completely, even more ridiculous.
It does seem ridiculous. But we've got to start with Rob's reaction, Nate.
We do. What's Rob's reaction?
Because Rob's not seen this movie. I heard Rob have a good laugh at one point during the movie.
I tell you what, lads, I really enjoyed this film.
I thought this was what you were going to do to us. I thought you were going to do
I
this.
don't know if this is to do with expectations, but through cunning deduction, I had worked out that you both did not like this film. I was expecting a right old piece of shit. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
You enjoyed David's nefarious plans.
I think David is amazing. I think he's he's become one of my favourite movie villains ever. At the end, I nearly cheered. As soon as he comes back, everyone's like, everyone knows it's David, right? It's David. And the film does quite a good job of trying to throw you off the scent. It's like, look, he doesn't have his hand.
Yeah. And he never looks evil.
He's not looking evil. He's speaking with his American accent, and he's helping Daniels and Tennessee get rid of the alien that's come on board. And he even breathed a sigh of relief when they managed to get rid of the alien. And it got to the bit where I was thinking, oh, maybe it is Walter. And then, he didn't need to reveal it, but he does. Yeah. It's so good. She's like, oh, when we get to Oregon, can we build the house on the lake, Walter? House on the lake? House on the lake.
You're right. It's so true. Because
just pretend you know what it is.
That is a choice.
He enjoys the reveal.
He wants to know.
Betty buys. It was fantastic. I think Michael Fassbender is having a great time.
He's great.
And I am having a great time watching him. He's a diabolical villain, and I'm just there for it. I wasn't expecting, the aliens aren't scary anymore. They haven't been scary for like 3 or 4 films now. And once again, they were pretty rubbish here. I don't really care. Like I was expecting this film to be awful.
Yeah,
and
awful.
I probably enjoyed it more than any Alien film apart from the first 2. I thought it was better than Prometheus. I enjoyed it more than Alien 3. It's better than Resurrection.
I think it's mostly awful, again, as like a bit of alien lore. As a continuation of the story, obviously it's a prequel, but, as a continuation of the story that we began with Alien, I feel like that's where it's a really problematic and just rubbish. And it leaves, especially because it leaves us with even more questions than I had before about how are we getting back to Alien now?
I don't really mind how we're getting back to Alien. I imagine if there ever is going to be a sequel to this film, that's where the dots would be joined up. But in exploring the origins of the engineers and the xenomorphs, we're now presented with the idea that it's all the work of one very evil robot, and I quite like that, the madness of that. And when he's there saying to Walter, "Oh, whoever it is, I'm creating the perfect organism," and I kind of like how you then go and watch Alien, and you have Ash with the reverence for these creatures, and the thought that these aliens are like a byproduct, the ultimate expression of an android's dissatisfaction with its creators. I think there's something quite interesting in that. It made me think of Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park. God creates man. Man destroys God. Man creates dinosaurs. Whereas here, it's obviously God creates man creates android creates aliens.
Well, his engineers create man.
Yeah,
exactly. Do you know, maybe you're right. Maybe in the future, in the same way, because I think one of the things that I said really early on was I would love, during the course of this podcast, to find a movie which I had written off at some point, like a Blade Runner. Do you know what I mean? Like where people are like, I hate this. And then it becomes in for a huge re-evaluation. And maybe one day that's how people...
That was Alien Resurrection.
I don't think anyone's ever going to look at Alien Covenant in the same way that people look at Blade Runner. It's not a great film.
But I think maybe Prometheus and Covenant one day will have a better reputation than they currently enjoy. I still find it really difficult to enjoy it. And not for any of the... I really thought Michael Fassbender was really good fun as well. I think that, again, less with the lore and the details, although I on a base level, don't particularly enjoy like bits of things I'm invited to wonder about then being just answered. Yeah. I find that that's sort of deadening, isn't it? And that's just all been 2 movies of that now. But it's more the lack of optimism. These are like, the Prometheus was pretty dark, and this is, as you said, really dark. And I just can't get on board with if the figure of the Alien films are about a small candle of human hope blowing in darkness, and in this, that candle is inside like a cryosleep chamber, writhing and screaming. That's the last image we get. That's horrible.
I think it's quite funny. I think we're almost leaning into like rubbish shark movie territory here, where there's not been a likable human character in this franchise since Aliens.
Daniels was quite nice.
Alien Covenant, I thought, actually had like a big cast of likable characters compared to Prometheus.
Compared to Prometheus, yes, but I didn't care about anyone. Like I don't.
Lots of them I didn't. No.
Daniels was nice. Tennessee was nice. I still didn't care about.
I mean, how many can you name outside of those 2? Though
I don't know.
There's a big cast. Billy, and they're mostly there to be
Billy
killed.
Crudup. Is that how you pronounce his surname? I don't know. I just didn't care about him. I can't remember who's husband and whose wife. There's lots of romantic partnerships going on here. There's various points in the film where someone's sad that their partner's died. James Franco gets to be in it for like a minute at the beginning on a mountain. Why? Anyway,
that is one of the decisions the film has made that has aged really well. Should we just burn him alive before he can speak? Yes. Let's do it.
He just must have really wanted to be in it.
So it's the lack of optimism and hope that I find objectionable. And you're right, if we're in rubbish shark movie territory, I wouldn't mind as much.
You're coming in you want to watch everyone. I was cheering for David, and I wanted all the humans to die.
And I feel like Ridley Scott's on your side.
There was a little flicker of hope for me there. The little flicker of hope was at the end when Dave was shh.
It's just hope.
And now I want hope for another movie where David just gets to kill everyone again. Oh, it's so much fun.
That is not enjoyable to me. And I would say, like, again, as a standalone thing, and that's why I say maybe in the future, other lunatics will enjoy this film as much as you have. But coming from the Alien world, what I want is for the same ideas and themes to at least exist, or at least I was tricked into thinking it's still aspiring to a level of quality. And Ridley Scott, as we've just spoken about, visually, superb filmmaker. Quality bar is maybe variable, but I don't want this from that kind of. If I'm watching trash, let it be trash, but not like an Alien sequel with a really good cast and expensive effects and everything. I want something more than this. I
don't think it's striving to be trash.
No,
but I think I've inadvertently enjoyed it as trash, and I don't think it is trash either. I think that's maybe a bit harsh, but
It's so bleak, man. It's so bleak. The idea that we find the people that made us, they hate us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we create something, it hates us. And we're losing. We're just trapped in a ship and we're going to be mutated and split apart. What did you think really specifically of the fate of Elizabeth Shaw?
I assumed that was some sort of production decision where I was surprised at the end of our Prometheus episode. You said that she had signed on for a sequel, and then when she isn't in this movie, I assumed that there'd been some contract negotiations that had gone wrong or something like that.
I'm still not really sure what happened.
That's what I'm guessing happened, and I'm guessing the childish response was, "Well then, we're going to have you die in the most horrific way."
We still own the rights to your image.
I think I enjoyed. There was a couple of nods to Alien 3 in this. I don't know if this is a deliberate nod to Alien 3 having one of the liked characters from the previous film just dead before this film even starts, and quite horribly. But then also the shutting the alien in all of the doors at the end. A couple of little nods to Alien 3 that I just thought, oh. I had no reaction beyond, oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Ridley Scott is on record as liking Alien 3. I think he said it was
I didn't get the reference there. And and how does she die? Is that completely cleared up? Because she is dead.
Yeah.
But she's not.
Well, David claims she died in the crash, which I'm guessing wasn't the case.
No.
Well, then he says just openly, is it to Walter or someone else that? No, it's
someone says she didn't die in the crash. Did
he says no, and I'm going to do the same thing to you. Just slice her up and use her for experimentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems quite unpleasant. She's put him back together. It's just horrible.
It
like
is horrible.
The idea that I could sit with someone for a whole movie, want them to survive, have them. She really didn't like David at the end of Prometheus, but then to take him on that journey, I'm kind of like down for the tension-fueled adventures of Shaw and David. I'm down for that. And then for it to just turn out to be he's got long hair and he's living as Obi-Wan on a planet full of people that are dead and he's cut to pieces. That is very hard to enjoy.
Yeah.
Rob's just smiling horribly.
Yeah. So strange. So strange.
One of the other things that struck me as wrong, and I'm trying not to be overly picky because there was some stuff I liked about this. I'm not sure that they're engineers on the planet. I know it doesn't really matter if they're engineers or not.
The same species.
They look a bit like them, but I think actually they're a bit smaller. They're not as translucent. And the idea being in the fans who have talked about this, that they could just be another civilization that was seeded by the engineers in the same way that we look quite a lot like engineers.
I did think that they were ridiculous. You know, they had seemed to have shed their technological advancements. They're dressed in Hessian and sort of gathered in the village circle.
But then they've got a big spaceship which is hovering around apparently, and
yeah, it wasn't really clear what that was.
No, it's a bit like the engineer's ship though, so maybe it is. And do you know what? I don't mind that I don't know the answer.
Exactly.
It's quite interesting. The one thing I do object to is that the entire planet's population can fit into a big football stadium and then can be killed immediately.
Yes.
Or I guess there could be other people elsewhere on the planet which have been killed by the pathogen after that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, there are no birds, no animals. They make a point of that.
That's true.
And,
the ecology wouldn't last long under those circumstances, would it? But the trees seem fine.
Yeah. It's not. Let's
I
not investigate.
I don't think they brought
far.
in Attenborough to consult on this film.
I don't think they did either.
No.
He probably would have been quite upset by what happened to Elizabeth.
It's quite a
Shaw.
nasty film.
It is a nasty. Yes, that's exactly.
I mean, yeah,
you're right, David.
Well, Nath, I'm actually just telling you what you told me. And when we spoke about this film a few months ago, before we even knew we were going to watch it and do this podcast, I just remember talking about Prometheus and Covenant, and you said that they're nasty films. And it's just, I think it's so true. It's like there's, we've seen lots of gore and body horror and pain in all the films, but these are nasty, and it's hard to completely explain what we mean by that. But I definitely understand it. It's kind of like what you said. It's like it's just a film that's made just to hurt us. There isn't any joy in it. There isn't any hope in it, unless you're a big David fan. It is just there's nothing to root for. You were just watching events unfold and spiral and be horrible, and there's no escape. It's just nasty. It just wants to hurt its audience.
I don't disagree, and within that, I feel like the problems that I have with sort of motivation and story, they become more important, they become magnified only because if the film's going to lock me into something unpleasant, then I really want to sort of test the boundaries of the prison. And if they're really firm, I'm kind of like, do you know what? Well, this is a well-constructed prison and it's designed, but there's a sloppiness to it. Again, like Billy Crudup just peering in, like, I'm suspicious of this android. I think we should leave. I'll follow him into this basement full of eggs. What? I mean, good. I'm glad you're dead because I hate you now. But I want to be able, again, we talked about this last week, Prometheus. I want to be able to root for the people because they're just doing what people would do in that situation. And I don't see a lot of that here.
No.
Daniel's a little bit is given a sort of a +1 aptitude card. But everyone else is pretty pathetic.
Yeah,
pathetic.
I mean, everyone makes a lot of strange choices, and that whole bit.
Tennessee's all right.
Yeah, but he does descend the ship into the danger zone
to save his friends.
But there's 2,000 people. To be fair. It does work, I know, but I'm just saying I feel like it's extremely reckless. I like Tennessee as much as is possible with the little I know about him. But I did think, that is the wrong choice. Like, as in, morally right or wrong, it's the wrong thing to do. It works out fine, and I'm glad he does it.
What if it was Spock that was down there?
Spock? Well,
we got to go get Spock.
Kirk would lower the ship and it would be great, but Tennessee's got a way to go to be Kirk.
We spoke a little bit last week about the differences, again, between the crew of the Prometheus and the crew of the Nostromo in Alien, and why we preferred Alien, how more realistic those relationships seemed, and therefore how much more likeable the crew of the Nostromo seemed. And I was thinking about that in relation to Prometheus again, and also Covenant. And it does seem to me a little bit of a case of the slickness of modern Hollywood storytelling and the need for conflict. And we were talking about, it was something a conversation that you both were having about Sean Harris's character just getting really angry with Shaw on a sort of a hair trigger. And it's, he's got his motivation, but it's the idea that every scene is energized or story is told through conflict. And I feel like I wanted to talk about the fact that you've already mentioned it, that everyone in Covenant is coupled up. And it does strike me again that is another fairly shallow way of just saying, and therefore they'll all have these complex motivations, and again we'll get loads of conflict.
Yeah.
Whereas I think all the conflict that we need really is there's a fucking alien, lads, and can we stay alive? So, and did it bring anything for you? You said you'd already forgotten who was coupled up with who.
No, I think it's not a great film. It's not a great film, and it suffers, as you say, from that. I don't know whether it's a modern thing, but it's. And, we've talked a lot about Ridley Scott. Does he actually know why the things he's made that are good are actually good? And it suffers from that thing of, like, every scene has to have, like, a high emotional stake above and beyond the fact that they're dealing with an alien. Like I said, when on the ship, when the first alien is bursting out of that guy and there's the other woman in there and the other woman locks her in the room, You can just feel all of the, but I can't let her out because if I do, then I'll be good. Or she likes that person, and then Billy Crudup comes back, and you're thinking, oh no, that's Billy Crudup's wife in there that's been locked in. It's just endless, and then he gets to see someone. Maybe is it his wife who comes out after it's exploded, just for a couple of seconds, just burning on the floor.
Probably not his wife. It's probably
the other one.
The other one, Tennessee Williams. Tennessee's wife.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's up there in space trying to phone down. It's just, you don't need that all the time. And I think it's a film that regurgitates quite a lot of the motifs, if you will, of Alien. It's trying to play the hits. It's like an AI algorithm trying to serve you little bite-sized bits of things that have happened in Alien.
I think you're right.
So you get the music's there. Jerry Goldsmith's Alien theme is quite prevalent throughout it, and it's a great bit of music. And again, it's that weird thing where you're like, oh, this music's great, isn't it? Oh, the design of that ship is amazing, isn't it? But just weirdly put in something that isn't very good.
You're absolutely right. And it's weird that we're all worried, I'm worried, about how AI might ruin creativity in the culture by just serving us things we've already seen before. Ridley Scott's already doing it with his own films.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't even need AI.
You need to have a scene where someone wants to come back on board the ship, but they're infected. So one of the characters is like, no, don't bring them back on. And another... That happens so many times. Happens in Prometheus. It's just endlessly happening. And it's all from that one bit in Alien where Kane comes back with the face hugger on and Ripley's like, no, we're not letting him in.
I would argue that is actually a little bit inverted here. No one says don't bring him on board. In fact, she brings him on board.
They should say don't bring him on board.
And then locks them in. She's like, well, this was a mistake. I'm going to lock you in with him. But yes, but another one is Ridley Scott thought, do you know what I'd like to revisit? I'd like to revisit the alien's tail, suggestively
terrible,
mutilating a woman to death. This time she's having a shower.
Was it the one shot that we were all like, "Oh, it's too far"?
It's way too far.
From the first Alien, we were like, "Nah."
Yeah, no one likes that.
And then 40 years later, he's like, "Do you know what?
My greatest hits.
We're ready for if that woman was naked in a ridiculous shower sex scene that this movie doesn't need."
Yeah.
The film went kind of crazy at the end there, didn't it? It was kind of like the planet happened, and in terms of pacing and really pushing together the story of David with this new crew. Quite well done, I thought, in terms of this is a cohesive story, and then suddenly one of the couples is just banging.
Yeah.
It was kind of like I didn't know where that was coming from.
They've escaped. They've escaped and they're alive.
It's odd though, isn't it? I guess they're happy and they're alive. Yeah.
Couldn't they just have some dinner? A nice dinner together.
They could have,
nice.
They could have laughed.
Maybe they did. We just didn't see that bit.
Kane, they could have had a coffee.
I
and
know,
a cigarette.
but Ridley Scott decided what bit we do see, Rob.
Yeah.
That's the point. I'm sure they did have a nice dinner. They probably did have a laugh.
And then it kind of fast forwarded really quickly to there's also an alien. It was on board. Yeah, it was odd that whole. I just felt like it kind of. There were a few different directions, and it decided to go in all of them.
There's always that's another one, isn't it? That's another little thing that the alien is still with us postscript bit. It happens in Alien, happens in Aliens, and now we get it again in Covenant. You think, we're all right. Oh no, there's another one.
And the eject the alien into space.
Ejecting the alien into space bit,
which I didn't understand so well this
Should
time.
make a bingo.
Daniels
Daniels
figured that out. Her plan was like watertight, and she came up with it very quickly and executed it to perfection.
Well, not quite, because it's supposed to just be in the cab of the truck, and the truck goes off, but then another truck has to come, and why does it die again? Because it's making its way back.
She shoots it.
She shoots it.
It's about to get back on. She's like, no, but it just blasts into space.
Well, it gets cut into bits by one of the trucks with
that's right. She ducks. I hated it. I didn't like that.
But then she just pops up.
Yeah.
Hey.
She ducks.
Hey, girl.
See, that bit was her plan coming to fruition perfectly, and it was a silly plan, that bit. The plan B that she created on the fly in about half a second.
It was odd. It was like in action terms, it's like the little mouth that comes out of the alien. It was like we've already had the big mouth, which was her fighting it with the, I don't even know what you'd call it, the digger on the landing ship, and then this was the little mouth.
Yeah. I did, talking about relationships, and I agree, like they're sort of nonsense, and it's so hard to keep track. And there's a really clumsy scene, where when they're flying down to the planet and they try to make it clear, like, there's a few husbands and wives here. Like, hey, you got my wife there? Yeah, I got you wife. My wife's up there with you. Yeah.
That only confused me. Gotta say,
but I did appreciate the idea that, and it is said actually to the second new captain by his wife, these people are when we land, these people are your neighbours. And I realised they're on a colony ship, and of course husbands and wives are going to be travelling together because
not necessarily in the crew though.
Maybe not in the crew, but I suppose it makes it easier for you to sign up.
This crew is a family. That's the theme.
Yeah. And I appreciated that, just like thought about colonizing, what it would be like, and the weirdness of it, and having to go to this place. And I also quite kind of liked the little bit of characterization at the start with the captain dying, the new guy becoming the captain. It's not a bad captain, it's not like Aliens.
Do you know? But then I can just feel the writers' room, the tang of the writers' room, and going, and this guy's a Christian, and he's worried about how faith is going to fit into this, and not only that, but also this is maybe the first time we've really had faith introduced, apart from Cool in Alien Resurrection, maybe the idea of faith being introduced into a world which also tries to encompass the alien and the engineer. And
well,
it's not necessarily a bad idea.
Prometheus had quite a big religious side because Shaw has a crew. Doesn't she have a cross or something? And David's talking about belief. But yes, you are right. I've completely lost my train of thought.
And just the idea of giving faith to a man who has obvious flaws about leadership, but is also obviously trying to do the right thing.
Right.
Potentially interesting.
Yeah. I like the little scene where they all have a drink, even though it's against his orders, and then, like I said, his wife says that these people are going to be your neighbours. I kind of like there was some characterization there, and off the back of Prometheus, where everybody was so dislikable, I was like, these people aren't offending me. They seem
Prometheus was
more
terrible,
rounded and real.
I was just my mind was like Access Files, bits of Prometheus, and the bit that came up was Idris Elba going, "Hey, do you want to bang?" And the woman's like, "No, but yeah."
Yeah, you must be a robot then. Okay, see you in 10 minutes. That was good. Turns out that was our standout scene.
I wanted to talk about David and Walter.
Yeah.
Walter is the fourth letter of the alphabet, W, backwards. Oh my God.
What?
So David is the fourth letter of the alphabet.
Yeah.
W is the fourth last letter of the alphabet.
Oh,
counting backwards from Z because they're mirror images of each other.
Uh-huh. Yes, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that?
That's not what I actually wanted to tell. That was a side note. Don't worry. I wanted to say that two things. I actually really enjoy their scenes together. They were the most tense and invested I think I've been in these last couple of films. And in a way, what that then suggested to me was, it's because Walter's nice, right? He's like chill. He's like the good robot, like I said, but who likes humans and is more. And I've said that obviously that's a trick because all robots are just machines and we should view them that way. But in terms of just story, I'm more invested. And then I was like, as a viewer, do I just want the pat on the head? Do I just want the happy ending? Am I being a basic bitch? And maybe I am. But I think if nothing else, it shows me that if you're going to set up that kind of tension and you've got to resolve it in a way that doesn't make me feel so shit like this film does. But in general, that happening, I enjoyed it. And the Fassbender scenes with himself and however they pulled that off.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
Really
You
good.
get an actor who's clearly very good and you're like, how do we just want a really good actor on actor scene? Let's just do two Michael Fassbenders.
Yeah.
The two best actors in this film.
It's funny you talk about like the writer's room, and in these scenes I feel like you could see I don't know maybe the producers have a room, but it's like it won't be enough for him to be in the same place. We need to carefully move the camera around so that people go, how are they doing that?
We need him to kiss himself.
Yeah, exactly.
He needs to jack himself off.
We need
at least once.
People won't believe it unless they see that. That's what we need. That was quite.
The flute
funny.
playing scene was great.
That's the jacking off scene, effectively. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed Walter's like factory reset position when he gets stabbed in the neck by a flute and he goes like a spider on the floor. And I like when he comes back and says something like, "We made some updates." That is a great.
That's the thing. It teases, and maybe this is good. It teases like action hero cinema.
Yeah,
like he's come back with a quip, and
there was it was like Neo versus Agent Smith for a little bit.
Yeah,
at the beginning of The Matrix Reloaded, when Neo goes to punch one of the agents for the first time in the film, it blocks him, and Keanu Reeves just like, upgrades.
Yes.
And then proceeds to beat them all up. It's just a little flash of that, and I enjoyed it. They're just having a little kung fu fight whilst all the other stuff's happening around.
Yeah.
Humans running, let's get out of here! Xenomorphs running around, two androids just having a cool fight.
Let me posit a different ending to this film where the end of their fight is ambiguous deliberately. It looks like there's a little bit of a sign. It's up to you now, brother. And I quite like the Brotherhood of Android stuff. I feel like Ridley Scott is more interested in AI at this point than he was in Xenomorph.
or humans.
That's true. And then they run to the ship. They have a fight with a digger.
I like the fact that you're really immersing us into this with added sound effects.
They get on board. Everyone's happy. Should we have sex in the shower? Let's do it. And then the alien comes back. And even if you wanted that bit, fine. Oh, the double ending. Crazy. Everyone goes to sleep. Daniels asks... they shut the lid. And Daniel says... oh, when we get there, can we build a cabin? Because she's 5 years old. And he just blinks.
Yes.
And then he says, yes, of course.
Yeah.
And then she's like, huh? And isn't like, just, huh?
Yeah.
And then she goes to sleep. That would be brilliant.
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
And then it should end.
The Inception
Yeah, the
ending.
end.
The
The end.
Inception ending where it's just...
He literally regurgitates embryos.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, they
them
want
in there.
there could be zero ambiguity. And
He says, mother, play The Gods Enter the Halls of Valhalla.
yeah,
It's unbelievably
yeah,
basic. It's
it is.
Was there, anyone, we could have watched that. We have watched it. We could have just said, look, Mr. Scott,
please.
let's just
please.
end it here. Let's just end it there.
And no one
We
wa-
all know, everyone will be thinking, oh God, what's David going to do now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, I also, talking about basic, the scene at the beginning, which I kind of like in a way, where he's talking to Wayland and he's just waking up and, David, you're my son, you're my boy. All of that scene. And people have said that room does not exist, that shouldn't be an alien. And I was kind of like, you know what, it looks a lot like Tyrell's room
Yeah.
in Blade Runner. And I think that's maybe where Ridley Scott's head is at. But him saying, what's your name? And then, I don't know why, he sounds quite a lot like Vince McMahon. And David turns around and there's, I assume, the actual Michelangelo's David. And again, it's just, it was so on the nose that my nose almost came off. I was like, fucking hell. That's David. I think I'll be David.
I'll be David. I just was more enjoying just... I'm renovating my kitchen at the moment, and just Michelangelo's David didn't fit in the room, and just the idea they had to reverse engineer like a big hole in the ceiling and in the floor so it could get in, but then you only really get to see his torso anyway.
Yeah, well, his
because he
arms
doesn't
have come
fit.
off,
It's
mate,
like,
it's fine.
Mr. Wayland, just so you know, there's no way he'll ever fit in this room. Just make it happen.
Exactly.
I just want Michelangelo's David.
I love
I don't know
the
why
idea.
I've made him now.
Yeah, no.
Monday Night Raw. Michelangelo's David.
I don't know why they didn't name the android the whole time they were making him, even after he was awake. That seems crazy. That doesn't matter. None of that matters. The ending, I thought they just had a shot at like a really interesting. And I remember the first time I saw it in the cinema, just thinking, oh, I really want this to be Walter. Walter's warm and I like him. And Rob said, he looks like it's Walter in his reactions to everything that's happened. Why wouldn't he want the alien to survive? He seems to help them to get rid of the alien. And then as that scene was happening, it was like I was slipping down a sandy crevasse. I was just thinking, just stop. And it didn't stop. And I remember thinking, you fucked it.
Yeah. Well, it would give us something to want from a sequel as well. There's really nothing I want from another film. Like, it's clearly set up for one because there's like all these questions and how do we get to Alien? It doesn't make any sense.
There's this,
I really just don't care.
I screamed at my phone reading the very interview. I think it's either Variety or Hollywood Reporter profile of Ridley Scott that all these quotes about the new Alien films are coming from. And he has said, I think they should do a sequel to Covenant, not to Romulus, because obviously that's his film. And
my film.
I want to do my film. And he said, because you've got David there, he's got all the colonists and the eggs, and that's a great beginning. And I was like, that exactly, you fucker. It's a beginning. It's not a fucking ending, is it? And I watched to the end of your film wanting an ending. I didn't want a beginning. I'm not watching television.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch a film with an ending.
Well, we've really moved away from the family-friendly podcast that.
Yeah, sorry,
that
I
we
am.
started
Well,
with.
it's true. I'll just click the explicit button. It'll be fine. I do get frustrated and upset about these films.
Yes, I've noticed that.
I don't think maybe it's because I'm a fan.
We're touching upon another trope of modern filmmaking now, where the ending can never be the ending. The ending's never enough.
Yeah.
We're in the age of the post-credits scene. We're at the age where you're at the cinema and the credits happen and no one wants to get up. There's a few people, the normal people who go to the cinema once a year, they get up because they don't.
Everyone else is like, oh, those guys are getting up.
Wait. There might be something. And you'll wait 8 minutes for just someone to walk through a door and everyone's like, oh, it's Ziggy Man or whoever the hell it is from Marvel.
This is the thing, isn't it? Because the in-culture term is Blorko, which was invented by someone in this building. Blorko.
Are you serious?
Our friend.
You don't know about Blorko?
There's no way. That
Are you
don't
trying
know
to
about-
pretend?
me on now?
Are you trying to pretend that you just had an independent thought there?
Because Matthew Castle, who is a colleague of ours, he talks about it. It's this big achievement in life in
Yeah.
a way that he tweeted. I hate that bit at the end of a Marvel movie where everyone waits for the extra scene. Someone walks through the door and says, "It's me, Blorko," and everyone goes wild. And he's like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
And that tweet did numbers. And now Blorko it's been co-opted by
It's part of
the culture.
Yeah.
Really?
Those scenes are the Blorko scenes.
People.
I find it astonishing that Matthew Castle would not have boasted about this to
He
me
does
at some
boast
point.
about it all the time.
Well, never to me. I've not heard about Blorko.
Unbelievable.
Well,
I can't believe you're the most on Twitter out of the three of us in this room. There's no way you could have missed
Well, to be
Blorko.
fair-
When did he do it?
About 2 or 3 years ago.
No, a bit more than that.
I think it was after the Marvels. Well, no, the whatever the one with Barry Keoghan where they're all
Oh yeah, that one.
space.
The Eternals.
The Eternals.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a Blorko. It's a good thing.
But
You
you're
should
right.
ask him about
You
it.
are right.
Yeah, you are right. But Matthew Castle was right first. Sorry.
But this film's like it's got the end credit scene before the credits, and even if they just put them afterwards, at least I would have been able to choose to leave if I'd wanted to.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy it. Rob looks stunned. He still can't believe.
Well, I think it's also, and this is like, it's not just Matthew Castle and Matthew Castle's friends that know about Blorko. Everyone knows
No,
about
it's
Blorko.
part of the culture.
You
His
can-
tweet has become a thing.
Wow.
I will
Yeah.
live Google Blorko.
He's such a self-deprecating, defeatist man.
Yeah.
That I figured his one victory, he would never shut up about it. I've never heard him mention this.
He's mentioned
There's a
it all the
page
time.
of results.
How many retweets did it get?
Let me see.
It has spawned thousands of copycat tweets.
The thing is,
People
it's been
copycat all the time.
screenshotted.
I think
people
that
have drawn Blorko.
I think he got really upset because, like, the makers, some Marvel director or something, retweeted someone else's one, not his. You know, like it's big. It's a big deal.
This screenshot of his tweet has got 82,000 upvotes on Reddit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'll have words with him
you
later
could have
about
to
this.
you show him a bit more respect. He's a cultural
Yeah.
icon down there, walking around, having his
Well,
thoughts.
I feel like this is the kind of recognition he's constantly craving.
He's got it.
And it's always sad that he doesn't have. And yet he apparently does have it.
Well, it's turned into the Matthew Castle podcast now. But he's got his own.
He's got his own podcast.
He's got his own. If
The
you'd like to know
Blorko
who we're
podcast.
talking about, check out the Backpage Pod.
The Blorko pod.
Yes. But anyway, we've got so far away from Alien Covenant now.
Good.
We
so I
were
don't know how to
talking
get back.
about
That's what I
no movie ever being satisfied with the ending of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. And I think that what you can decipher from Ridley Scott's talk about Alien was that he thought he'd done a film and then he'd come away from it. I think that then he's spoken. I've just said last week that I've been reading lots of his interviews, and he can be quite inconsistent between the years, but he didn't do Aliens, and I think he's said more recently he was a bit upset by that, and he was recovering from Blade Runner, so he wasn't in a position to do it. But the things which he's been saying in this latest round were that he feels like he has started it, and it's a shame that he doesn't have a stake in it or ownership of it, and his business partners maybe let him down, or it was tough to get that right at the beginning. And that's why he wants to direct the next sequel. It's why it's not clear that this definitely happened, but he certainly pushed ahead with his idea for Covenant at the expense of Neil Blomkamp's idea for an Alien 5, which would have brought back Ripley and Michael Biehn as well as Hicks. And Sigourney Weaver was super on board with that. I really wanted to do that film. And I think sees it as an ongoing thing. He's spoken about, after Prometheus, he spoke about maybe having 3 or 4 movies which would link back to the original Alien film, and then veering off more into the world of AI than Xenomorphs, which probably this was, a beginning of. But then he's unusually candid, I think, a lot of the time, and he would just say the things that are in production. And when you get a peek into that world, loads of things are in production all the time, and there's an endless river of possibilities running through filmmaking that very rarely turn into actual films. But yeah, I agree. It's just, wouldn't it be nice if it just had an ending? I feel like the next film we're going to watch does have more of an ending, and I like it more.
Well, there can be no
I'm
hints.
just desperate to get away from this
There can
film.
be no hints. Well, you could start to wrap it up. I think we have, covered all the big things I wanted to cover.
Do you know, Rob's made me like this film a little bit more. Maybe I should just enjoy it as
I
as
think
a
you
bit
like
of
it the
pulp.
least out of the three of us, that's for sure.
I really feel personally attacked by it.
Yeah.
I really feel like it lets something down. And there's there's something I really, I guess I am upset by in it. I reread the thing that I wrote after I'd watched it the first time, and at the end I said, like, to the surprise of myself, I think this film is wrong, like morally wrong, and I still kind of feel like that. So.
I've watched it quite a few times, again, like with Prometheus. I think with a morbid fascination, I definitely don't enjoy it, but it's stuck with me. And I mean, we'll talk about Standout scene in a minute, and like definitely one of the scenes. It's just like
you can just do it now, Dave.
We could do it. Well, my Standout scene is the really horrible sequence of that guy.
The film.
Yes, the film. Yeah, going into the quarantine with the lady. She's locked in. A thing bursts out of his back. It's all spiky and horrible. That whole sequence. It's just stuck with me ever since I watched it. It's just I have a morbid fascination with it, like the horror. It just makes me
like
really feel horrible. I hate it, and it stands out for me. And whenever I think of this film, I just think of that bit. Always, just think about it. Fair. What he's going through, what she's going through, how scared she is in there, how wrong it goes, how everyone's afraid.
That's so powerful. And I kind of feel like with the different surrounding and context, that could be the centerpiece or one of the many pieces of a really effective and enjoyably unpleasant film.
It could definitely be the climax of something, and instead it's just like we're just getting going.
Let's crack open a human and get this alien movie going.
I did enjoy it when I had to go to the toilet just after that bit had happened.
Yeah.
Whilst we were watching this, and there's just a little giggle from both of you. Too much.
Excuse me for a minute.
Rob, what was your standout scene?
Oh, when it was revealed to be David. David, it's you. Yeah. the little she does, and then he says something like "sleep tight" or "beddy bites" or something like
that. He says,
"Don't
let the bed bugs bite," I like the bugs reference.
And he says, "I'll tuck in the children."
Oh yes, that's right. Oh, because I wanted it to be David so much, and by that point I was afraid that it was actually Walter. And then
you were afraid.
Oh, maybe this is just a happy ending.
The dread for me at the end was the tension of whether it was going to be Walter. I really wanted it to be. I just wanted the good guy. I just wanted Daddy to come home.
I think Michael Fassbender is genuinely fantastic in this film. I do genuinely think that.
He's really same.
And I love that his direction was probably, you've got to do a face with like just a flicker of confusion when you don't recognize what Daniels is saying to you. And then you've got to also realise that means she knows you're David. And then I want you to transform into reveling in that. And he does all of that in like 1 second. And it's amazing. It's so good.
Face acting.
He's just having such a great time.
Michael Fassbender.
And also Daniel's realisation that she can't get, she knows the cryo sleep magic's about to happen. Nothing she can do.
Yeah.
Again,
horrible, just nasty thing for me to think about.
Again, a very effective scene that I still do think about, and I just wish it had been played slightly differently. As I already said, my standout scene. I haven't thought about it, so I'm singing instead. My standout scene. I don't even know what my standout scene is. In terms of unpleasantness, the scene I've never forgotten was the tiny glimpse of shore. It's so cruel.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's so offhand. She's waxy, and he's just left it there.
Yeah.
I think that's the standout scene for me. Yes.
It's interesting again that having talked about this a lot about Alien and lots of films, how we love the ambiguity, we love the not knowing. It's funny again, like even Shaw not being there, there's enough atmosphere and enough knowledge of David for it to be ambiguous as to what his version of events, but like as in if he says that she died in the crash, I'm pretty sure most people are watching that going, he's not a very trustworthy person. Is that true? But rather than leaving you with that ambiguity, which might be slightly interesting, they're just like, no, there she is.
Well, they didn't need to show us they showed us the actual scene of him coming down and releasing the pathogen and killing all of them. We've seen like the Pompeii-esque mummified remains. It's quite a horrifying image.
Yeah, it is.
Just this temple surrounded by the frozen corpses of these people.
Yeah.
And I agree. It would have been much more effective if the audience was allowed to piece that together and to realise actually David did this on purpose, didn't he?
It's weird that he's shied away from all of the ambiguity in the film. There's just none.
Isn't it? It's like he's relentlessly persecuting ambiguity.
I will explain everything.
Like, did David really do it? Yes, you can. Do you want to see the flashback?
Yeah.
He did do it. You're right. Just to say, because we mentioned about Noomi Rapace and not being in this film, but they are in the same way that there was for the first one. There's a few short films and clips that they put out before the film came out, and one of them has her in it. So she did shoot some new scenes after she wasn't in the film, and apparently there was a version of the script where she was in the film and was playing second lead to David, and the crew finds her, and she has been hiding from David for years on the same planet.
Oh yeah,
and that would have been a different kind of tension, I guess. She obviously I guess they land, and then she realizes that he's not trustworthy, but she's repaired him up, and it just seems incredibly unpleasant. She's
done a great job as well. He looks good as new.
Seamless.
Yeah,
maybe he finished the last bits himself.
Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, that it's called The Crossing. Anyway, if anybody wants to go and look at that, it's just a couple of scenes of her literally fixing his neck.
Right.
He says, I don't know if it's a quote from something. I hope this doesn't turn into another Moby Dick moment, where he's like lying there with his neck open, and he says, "Green to green, red to red."
Does that need to be explained, for God's sake?
But it's like but there's everything inside is just those white eggs. So it's kind of like he must be quoting something else, surely, because there is no red.
Oh, I don't think he is, Nate. I don't think he is.
Green to green.
With the weird sloppy white egg next to the other weird sloppy white egg.
Just close it up.
And then get the little special stapler that I keep.
What he should have said, of course, was,
I don't know.
The trick is not minding that it hurts.
Yes.
If he'd said that, he could have said, "Does it hurt, David?"
Yes.
And then he could have said, "The trick is not minding that it hurts." And I would have been like, brilliant callback.
That's a great scene.
I love this film.
Great scene.
But I didn't say that.
No.
Standout performance. Shall we even bother?
No.
Which one of the Michael Fassbenders was your standout performance? The best line in the film, Rob.
That's the spirit.
Oh, God's sake.
He was good, wasn't he? I can't believe after 6 or 7 films of joking that you're a replicant, and in this film you're like, yes.
Yeah. Why? Why am I always the evil robot?
But he's the best character by a mile.
He is the best character by a mile.
He is.
Yeah.
There's another line I don't hate, which it's when he's fighting, but it's so on the nose again, but I kind of like it. He just says to Walter, it's something like, "Them or us, would you rather serve in heaven or reign in hell?" Which is just, I like
that is a quote from something.
It does sound like a quote from something.
Someone says I'd rather. Well, it's Paradise Lost, isn't it?
But
let's hope.
But I like that
he's
completely clear about, he's very, again, unambiguous about it. He's not like, no, I'm doing this for a good reason. He's just like, yes, I am the devil.
Paradise Lost was the original subtitle for this movie.
Indeed, it
was.
was.
It was called Covenant.
Oh yeah, because we talked about it, but the thing is about Paradise. Yeah, Ridley Scott was like,
yeah,
you couldn't just call it Paradise. It'd have to be difficult. My best line is just the ones we've already said. Everything David says is fun, isn't it? Are we still fans? Are we still fans? I am, at this point, not a fan. And this has just reminded me of how unhappy I was at this point.
But surely you are so unhappy because you are a fan. You are a fan of those first two things, and you're disappointed that this film has not understood the themes and what made those first two movies so good.
It means I still enjoy those first two films, but I think what is possible that maybe we haven't spoken about before is that, as well as you becoming a fan of a thing and then being protective or particularly sensitive to how future iterations of it go, if those future iterations disappoint you, or in this case are so misanthropic that you wish you hadn't seen them, then I think it's possible to then care less about everything that comes afterwards. And my attachment to the series has definitely lessened since.
That's how I would frame it. I think a more interesting way of framing it, maybe, because it is difficult to. No, I'm agreeing with you. It's like, and I said this after Alien 3 or Alien 4. Is like, I wouldn't be excited about a new Alien movie at this point. And Alien Covenant, if they had announced the sequel. Well, I would have gone and seen it, but I wouldn't be excited about it. I don't want to see. I don't know why. I
would have gone to see it slapping
Just
myself
because
in the
it's happening.
face. Yeah.
Like I'm done.
Let's go and
I
see
don't
what
want
David
any
does to all
more
those
Alien,
colonists.
I suppose. Which, and I think that is still being a fan, as you said, Rob, because it's like, stop hurting my baby. I don't want you to hurt it anymore. And that is being a fan. But yeah, I'd like, this has happened to me in Star Wars. I haven't seen all Star Wars now. The latest series.
I've seen all the children's TV shows, though, haven't you?
I've seen, but I haven't seen the Acolyte. I haven't seen it still.
That is one of the children's TV shows.
Hey, well, it's children's movie. But that is, I still consider myself a big fan of Star Wars. But there are now Star Wars things that come out that I probably won't watch.
What about you, Rob? Are you a fan of Alien still?
Yeah, I like it. And if they ever do a sequel to this, I'll be there day one. I want to find out what happens to David. And what does David do? What awful, diabolical thing
I want someone to stop him.
has he done?
I wanted Walter to stop
It'll
him.
be, if they do make a sequel, it will definitely be an alien that kills him. Like, he'll have finally achieved his goal of creating the perfect organism, and he'll be like, oh, behold my creation, and it'll just go through his face.
What was his deal? What was his plan with they call them neomorphs?
The little pink ones.
The neomorphs.
Yeah, the one where he was like, he'd beguiled it somehow.
He just wants to be the dad.
He's the
their
dad.
dad, isn't he?
What was he going to do? Like fucking teach it the alphabet?
didn't
Like,
give
what was-
I just wanted to give it a
He'd
hug.
have given it the flute. Like when that little one comes out of Billy Crudup and he lifts his hands up and it lifts its hands up as well. Oh, Father!
He's finally he's the creator. He just
He's
wants
the creator now.
reverence of it.
But that's what will happen to him in the end is he will then be killed by his creation.
Yes.
That's clever, isn't it? That's what Ridley Scott's like, yes, men will create the robots and they'll destroy the men.
He kind of wants that. A bit like that guy at the end of Alien Resurrection, who's just like loving it, loving seeing the alien queen give birth to
Rob.
It
was Rob, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Brad Dourif.
It's just like that. He'd enjoy it. So it's not a good enough comeuppance for me. He would need a better death.
I want his whole universe view to be exploded and pulled apart by something, which can only be hope and faith in humanity that can do that, which is why I was so fucked off that it doesn't happen in this film and he gets to do whatever he wants with a toy set of 2,000 colonists.
With hope. God.
I just really wanted something else to happen in this film. Is there more good alien than bad? No. Should we move on?
Yeah.
I think there is.
There's more good alien than bad.
Yeah.
Would you recommend this to a friend?
Yes.
Who's
Which
the friend?
friend?
Yeah. Would you recommend it to me if I hadn't seen it?
I'd be like, if you've seen Prometheus, you go see Covenant now.
A lot of caveats here. Just a friend. Just, I'm looking for a movie tonight.
I'd be like, Michael Fassbender's great in this.
I've had a hard
Watch
week,
this.
Bob. My mum's a bit ill.
I'm
and
feeling a bit sad.
I'm not very happy at work. Have you got anything I could watch?
Watch this.
Do you like Michael Fassbender?
Imagine the crew is everyone you hate.
Chilling.
And just enjoy. It's almost like a slasher film almost. You go. Sometimes you want to watch a horror movie where everyone just gets brutally murdered, right? That's a whole genre there.
I am concerned. I've never wanted to watch that, by the way, and I am concerned that you had a little, lived out your fantasy through David.
No,
like yes. What would it be like?
I would love to play a villain
just
like
me
David.
and the animals.
What fun
in life!
It's so fun.
Yeah, it would be it's a great part.
I'd love to interview Michael Fassbender about it. Maybe he had a terrible time, but it looks like he's absolutely loving every day he's at work.
Great. And the only thing about the passing of time is, I guess, it gets more difficult for him to play David now in those films. Before we move on to Mailbag, which we're going to do in a second, I wanted to say again, listening back to the Prometheus episode, it did strike me one of the fundamental clashes that I have, which makes it difficult for me to enjoy Prometheus and Covenant, is the idea of engineers is like so big. The idea that there's a race of people who created humans. It's such a big idea that it's mad to try and fit it into a movie that's already got an alien in it, isn't it? It's sort of mad.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, these big, massive things are clashing all the time now. And like you said, when no one's really interested in the aliens anymore, now it's all about David, who's not an engineer. We sort of don't even care about the engineers.
David engineers and aliens.
Boring idea from the previous movie now. It's just like, it's so strange.
It's a weird mix, isn't it?
It is a weird mix.
Maybe the Mailbag can cheer us up, Rob.
I'm sure it can.
Well, I've got some mailbag here.
I can hear it.
Thanks. The first email I'm going to read is from Mark Allen, who says... He actually says, how's it? Which I don't really like. So I'm just going to replace that with hello, Redshirt Cinema Club. I thought I'd end up defending Prometheus initially as I listened. I liked it when I first saw it, mainly because it had a big ship going fast in space, which I still really liked. But this time around, I ended up not enjoying it as much, mainly due to your bonus episode on the connective tissue between these big science fiction stories and the black goo in the background that was 2001: A Space Odyssey. Hey. That episode inspired me to read the book for the first time, and as a thing which more deeply explores an ambiguous film and plays with ideas about a higher intelligence guiding human life, while having a character called David interacting with that intelligence and changing via the interaction, it is just so much more satisfying.
Oh, fair.
I do agree, 2001, this is me now, I do agree 2001 is a better film than Prometheus.
Is it Walter or Rob?
Is it better than Covenant?
2001?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2001 is better than almost all films.
Yes, I know you do, Rob. I just wanted you to say it.
I ended up thinking Prometheus should have been the origin of why the company was so interested in finding alien life and hence the crew expendable protocol, rather than the origin of the xenomorph and space jockey. But that is easy to think when all I'm required to do in relation to this film is watch it and eat popcorn.
That's fair.
Mission accomplished.
I guess to justify this email with a question, and in honour of a fan thing versus another fan thing, who would you bet on in a synthetic fight between Data, this is a three-way fight,
Love it.
Data,
Yeah.
Roy Batty, or one of the alphabet alien androids?
One of them? That
So we get to
suggests they're
choose.
all
Well,
equal.
it would have to be David.
Let's go David, Data, or Roy Batty.
Great
Who's
question.
winning in a fight?
I think
Great
Roy
question.
Batty's out almost immediately.
Yeah.
Only
he can only
because
live 4 years.
and he was very eccentric and unpredictable, wasn't he? Maybe
Yeah.
only because we saw him at the end.
There was
Yeah.
that film where Data was just a hero, wasn't there?
David's
like an action hero.
Data's super strong, super smart.
I think Data would win.
I think Data would win.
I kind of feel like Data would probably win as well.
But it would be a good fight because David would do some really underhand, horrible stuff that Data doesn't
Do you know, in a way,
expect.
this has really made me think that the whole David and Walter arc is a lot like Data and Law, isn't it?
It is.
Just a good robot and a bad robot
Yeah.
being brothers. And the whole Cain, I was going to say,
Brother.
other Cain and Abel overtones, they're so biblical. Maybe that does elevate Covenant. Actually, I think you'll find that was in Star Trek The Next Generation, Nath.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Moving on.
We have another email from Nick Murray who says, "Hi everyone, just listened to your Alien 3 episode. Another great podcast, fellas.
Oh, thank
This
you.
was by far the episode I was looking forward to the most, as it's the one film in the franchise I myself have changed opinion on numerous times over the years. For the longest time, I was in agreement with pretty much all of your criticisms. And usually, as I believe Dave alluded to, this was because I would watch it on the back of Alien and Aliens, two excellent films, followed by a third, which was middling at best. Or an absolute slog, depending on my mood. In the lead up to Romulus, I decided to go against my instinct of rewatching Alien and Aliens, mostly because it wasn't so long ago that I'd rewatched them anyway, but also to give Alien 3 a fair shake without the shadow of its predecessors looming over it. Watch it in isolation, if you will,
Hey.
and by golly, wouldn't you know, I enjoyed it more than I probably ever have. I should say it was the assembly cut I opted for, which is definitely superior. Much better character development across the board, some amazing cinematography, which was weirdly omitted from the theatrical cut, and the ox burst dead facehugger reveal is a visually more interesting way of getting the xenomorph into the film. All this is to say that watching Alien 3 all on its lonesome gave me a new appreciation for it. In similar fashion, I also rewatched Alien Covenant not long after, a film I'd previously been pretty 50-50 on, and had a similar reaction.
Fair enough.
I can totally see that.
Setting out to partake in a franchise, especially via a podcast, you're not likely to dip in at random points, but rather consume it as a whole. But I think when you're stepping out the gate with two of the greatest films ever made, it's not doing the rest of the franchise any favours. But just because something isn't as good doesn't mean it's bad. The exception to all of this, however, is Resurrection. Whether watched in sequence or in a vacuum, that film is a big puddle of milky android excrement. Cheers from Nick.
I hope that it's not milky if the androids do indeed.
They
do
better
excrement.
not.
Can you
Surely.
imagine?
It would be super unpleasant. Although David's head did grow, which was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That is interesting. Also, it's like saying once you've had good food, bad food tastes worse. which is true. There are good things. We can just all have. I mean, I know we are not on this enterprise of the podcast, but watching those two, I've said it on the podcast, I said it off the podcast. Watching those two films in a row was so good.
Yeah,
they were just great. And it just made me think I could just watch good films all the time.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
This is what I do with video games now. I only play
great
9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 games now.
Yeah. And why not?
Yeah.
And you only eat 9 out of 10 food? Quavers, Whisper Golds.
Yeah, Mawam. Big bag of Mawam.
Look,
maybe a Coke.
I resent the fact that you're judging my diet based on what I eat in the office.
It's a third of your life.
Oh God. Yeah. But it's not a third of the food I eat.
No.
The food I've eaten at home this week's been really healthy.
What, is it more or less?
What do you mean?
Baked quavers.
The food you eat at work, is that more or less than a third?
Less than a third.
Right, okay. Wow.
There's only one meal a day in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wow.
It's true.
I actually have 2 meals
There's
a day.
a PS to Nick's email, and he asks, have any of you watched Star Trek Strange New Worlds? By far the best Trek in years.
I haven't, and I'm gutted that I haven't, and I really want to.
I
but
haven't.
I don't have the capability just yet.
I've got great news for you, Dave. You can.
How?
It's on Paramount Plus. It's
I don't have Paramount
Yeah,
Plus.
but you can get it. It's
I know, but I've
£7.
got all the things. It's so expensive to have all the different
You can get
services.
a trial for 3 months. It's very little. Or you could watch it here. My account's logged in on the PS5 in the other room. I have. It's great. It's really good. And there's a new one
I
coming.
remember you telling me about it, Nath, but I've already forgotten how it connects to all of the other Star
It will
Trek.
mean nothing to you, really, but it's like a prequel to all of the Star Treks.
It's
Has it got
basically-
Pike in it?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's got Pike in it. And it's basically original Trek era. So it's kind of just before the very first ever show. And so all the politics in the world is of that. And it just allows them to do pretty straightforward Trek adventures, and Spock's in it. So.
Nice.
Love Trek Adventures.
The final email in Mailbag this week is from Josh Snow, who says, Rob, Nathan, Dave,
Hello.
Yes.
this may not be appropriate for the pod,
Oh.
as it may feel like a sales pitch for something none of you have seen personally. I will leave it up to you, to your judgment, and no hard feelings if you don't use it. Well, that's just a preamble I didn't need to read. We have used it, Josh, because I thought this was very interesting. I'm a long-time watcher of PlayStation Access, listener of the PlayStation Access podcast and Redshirt Cinema Club. First time hailing, leaving artifacts in the museum, or leaving a distress signal.
Well played.
This is an interestingly written email. If you lads ever go to Barcelona in future and want to see some recreated sets from early Alien films,
Okay.
or see some genuine movie props and official replicas from across the series, all of them contained in the space of a standard English off-license, helping with the enclosed feeling of a spaceship corridor,
This is odd.
then you should consider checking out the below. It's a fan-made Alien museum. Louis, the owner, is very passionate on the series and has built the sets with friends over many years. The tours are up to 6 people and are fact-filled with some humour and a few jump scares.
Oh, no. What? Don't tell me that.
You're never going to go. And he's written in brackets, sorry, might not be up Dave's street.
No.
And Louis is also more than happy to answer questions or discuss theories. When we went this June, he had given a tour to Fede Alvarez, the director of Alien Romulus, the previous day. So
wow.
I'd expect some new prop additions and information by the time anyone manages to visit. Then there's a link there to the museum website, which we may share in a little Patreon post, so you can all have a look, because I had a look at, and the sets do look amazing. It looks.
We can put it in the description of this very podcast.
We could do that. Would be nice.
Cool and interesting thing.
So yeah, if any, I don't know when I'll ever be in Barcelona, but I will definitely make a point of checking that out, because that seems very cool. It's genuine movie props. I like it when you just get just randomly in a place you wouldn't expect the collection of someone who just really loves a thing.
Do you know when we were doing Star Trek and I shared some pictures of me in a Jeffries tube?
Yeah.
And in the captain's chair, rightly, in the captain's chair of the Enterprise,
No.
the crew around me. I also had, I think it was that was from a trip to Seattle, and they were from the Museum of Popular Culture, is that what it's called?
I think so.
But there was a Cinerama, and I can't remember which part of the cultural bit of Seattle it was. But anyway, there was loads of Alien stuff, which I'd just completely forgotten about, and loads of Blade Runner stuff. There's like costumes from Blade Runner, and Ridley Scott's original annotated shooting script for Alien is just in a glass cabinet.
That's cool.
And I had a photo of it.
Oh, I'd love to have a look through that. Well, imagine having a thumb through that. That would be cool.
Maybe just loads of cock and balls.
Yeah, just bored.
Just little underlining. Where did these guys come from?
yeah, exactly.
Maybe
must
I
show
must
everyone
figure out. Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So,
would you like me to ask you?
yes, please.
How did Alien Covenant do with the critics?
I will tell you. On a budget of something like 100 million, not loads in this day and age, to be fair. He can make a movie on a budget, can Ridley Scott. Alien Covenant made about 240 million in the global box office.
Bit of a squeeze.
A little bit, probably making some profit there, but not tons and tons. The critics were medium. I haven't pulled out very many because at this point, Roger Ebert sadly passed away.
Oh, no.
Passed away in 2013.
I wondered when that would happen, and that is a shame. He's been a big part of this podcast.
He has. Peter Bradshaw in The Guardian gave Covenant 3 out of 5 and said it is like a greatest hits compilation of all the other Alien films' freaky moments. But he also said the irony was that you won't really be impressed unless you're seeing them for the first time. So it's kind of like, who is this for?
Yeah.
So greatest hits, but you will only enjoy it if you haven't heard the hits before.
Yeah.
And that was the only critic really worth quoting, but everybody else was along similar lines. What happened next? There wasn't an immediate rush for a sequel because of the middling box office, but there was. Ridley Scott tried to make some things happen, as far as I could tell. So he did talk that same year, as I mentioned earlier, to Variety, that a Covenant follow-up was at the scripting stage. Ridley Scott told Empire in 2017 that he was interested in the AI side of the franchise and story rather than the Xenomorph side, but that he was expecting to make another movie or two to join his prequel series with the main series. He told IGN that he would film pretty much straight after Covenant, so he was expecting to film it in 18 months. He kind of said, we'll be filming this next year for sure. Obviously, none of that came to pass. One of the reasons that it didn't come to pass, we've spoken before in these sections about how the departure of key executives can lead to delays in production. But in this instance, all of Fox was sold to Disney. Right. So a lot of I think some things that were in production kept going, but I think that it becomes a much more strained atmosphere. I think some things keep going because they will add to the price of a Fox. If, like the Deadpool movie, for instance, being in development was seen as a good thing. Anyway, that was announced, that sale, in December 2017. So very shortly after, the same year as Alien Covenant came out. The sale was completed in March 2019 after all of the jiggery and pokery, which has to go on. And then in April 2019, so just 1 month after the sale was confirmed, Disney announced that Alien films were in development.
Oh.
So that's what you do for your shareholders. You say, we've done this big deal, and why have we done it? It's so we can exploit the IP that was in this thing that we've just done. So there's going to be more Avatar movies. There's going to be more Alien movies. There's going to be the X-Men are going to come to the Marvel Universe and all of that kind of business. None of those Scott sequels emerged, though. What happened instead was a TV show, Alien Earth, was announced in December 2020, so a year after the confirmation of the sale, with Noah Hawley in the showrunner role, as we know, because we've spoken about it and mentioned it a few times.
God, that's taken a long time to come around, hasn't it?
Well, I guess it was right in the middle of lockdown, or yeah, about halfway through lockdown.
My God, I'm. This is how I know I am a fan of Alien, because I'm so excited about this. Maybe I'm also a fan of Noah Hawley.
Well, this is the thing.
This is good. God, please be good.
That is. Yeah, I was thinking about this last night because I'm also very excited about that. And again, it's the proposition, isn't it? Another Ridley Scott Alien film I'm less excited about. But yeah, I am the same. That's next year. And as you said,
because I have more faith that Noah Hawley understands why Ridley Scott's work is good than Ridley Scott does.
Yes. Yeah, exactly the same boat for me. And then an original-ish film, as much as original as you can get, unconnected to anything specifically that's gone on so far. Alien Romulus, directed, as you've mentioned, by Fede Alvarez, was announced in March 2022. Originally, this was still in that period right after lockdown where everyone was a bit less sure about what cinemas were going to be up to and whether the theatrical experience was going to come back. And Disney was sending more stuff straight to streaming. So it was a Hulu film, which is Disney Plus part of Disney Plus in America. The adult part still remains an old service called Hulu. That's all the same thing over here in the UK. But at some point it was transitioned to a theatrical release because they believed in it. And that's the film that we'll be watching for the next episode of the podcast. Alien Romulus, set between, I believe, Alien and Aliens.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. I guess I've noticed that people haven't hated it. And so that is something for me to cling on to. And I'm a bit nervous actually as well because I saw the trailer for it a couple of months ago and it looked scary. It looked like a horror film in a way that most of these haven't felt too.
Well, he's a real horror
like
director,
films.
right? He did the Evil Dead remake and then he did more of a thriller, but is it called Don't Breathe? Which has got, I can't remember the guy's name, it's terrible, but he's the kind of military guy from Avatar. They'll eat your eyes for juju beans.
Yes.
He's that guy. And he is a blind veteran and 2 kids try and steal his money from his house. But it turns out, even though he's blind, he's got incredible senses.
Some things he can still see. I am nervous about watching this one. I am worried I'm going to be scared.
I feel like that's already, that's
what people want. That's
sign.
what people want from these movies, apparently. It's why I haven't seen it yet, because I thought I'd be too scared to see it in the cinema.
So just a couple of bits before we sign off. And it struck me earlier on, I was very keen to do Alien. And I think I was more thinking of the first 3 or 4 films than I'm quite tired of Alien at this point. And I guess that is fatigue. That's what happens. But I'm tired of it. And it struck me in a way that I wasn't really tired of Star Trek. And for whatever fault Star Trek has, maybe Rob was tired of Star Trek by the end.
Yeah, I was quite tired of Star Trek by the end.
Yeah, fair. There was enough in it. Maybe maybe there's a warmth and a comfort there. At least Star Trek never made me feel terrible about being alive. But so that was just interesting to realise. Like, I'm actually quite looking forward to finishing Alien, and I do feel more warm towards the next film. I hope you both enjoy it. And the other thing was just in terms of Mailbag, we're obviously starting our Lord of the Rings rewatch straight after Alien. We will have a bonus episode in the middle for Commanders, Patreon supporters. But yeah, if you've got obviously Lord of the Rings is massive for us. And if you have been following our work previous to the podcast, you'll know that we like it a lot. And you might know some of the things we enjoy about it. So if you've got any questions or want to give us Mailbag so we can have it ready for that first episode. So basically before we start to watch them, it would be great to have something to include in that episode. So please do email us at the usual place, which is redshirtcinemaclub@gmail.com.
Correct.
Thank you. Good. Or you can find us on Twitter, or you can come over to the Patreon and you can just sign up for free and chat to us if you want, or you could support the podcast and we'd be extremely grateful. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye. Dave, thank you.
You're welcome.
Rob, I guess thank you for being slightly sinister.
No night.
Oh, God.
In this episode. Thank you to everybody for listening, and we will see you next week. You've been listening to Redshirt Cinema Club. If you're enjoying the podcast and would like to receive 2 exclusive episodes per month, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just check the link in the description. We'd also love to hear from you. Email us at redshirtcinemaclub@gmail.com or follow us on social media. We'll be back with another episode next Monday. See you then.